Bitcoin is starting to break down, and I want to give a quick update as to what's going on. Obviously, price action as I see it, how I'm positioning, and what I'm expecting over the next few days. So let's get straight into it then. Firstly, apologies for not doing a video for the last week. I've been traveling. I'm actually back right now in the UK with family, so a little bit more difficult to actually jump on and do streams right now. But obviously, I wanted to give a bit of an update because the market is really starting to move. We're actually starting to see the breakdown in Bitcoin that I had been talking about on my Discord channel, also in different groups that I'm in. I have been talking about I'm expecting Bitcoin to break down, especially after we saw the big drop in the stock market, both on Thursday and Friday. Obviously, a massive collapse in the price of the S&P and the Nasdaq. And for me, it was very strange that Bitcoin was actually holding up so well on the Friday. People were starting to talk about a decoupling literally after one day. We knew on the Friday we had Michael Saylor buying. We also know that GameStop have also started buying. So we've obviously got big buyers on the Friday that were actually propping Bitcoin up. And I did think, I put out a message in the Discord group earlier that I did think we could sell off, really start to roll over today into the close for the week. And that is exactly what we're seeing right now. So obviously we've still got a couple of hours to go until the weekly close, actually 2 hours, 51 minutes, as you can see here, obviously on the countdown on TradingView. But we are starting to see prices really start to come down. And my first target here is going to be around about 74, 75,000. So like I've said, nobody knows exactly with any certainty what is going to happen in this market. But like I've said, just going to the weekly view and looking at what is our most optimistic path, by far our most optimistic path would be something like this. So would be a test down into around about, like I say, 74, 75,000, and really just building some price action from there sideways, really going into early summer. I think if we can see some sort of sideways price action, this would absolutely have to coincide with the stock market starting to see some strength and start, apologies. Sorry about that. Had a complete coffee fit on stream. Right, here we go. So this is absolutely gonna have to coincide with the stock market showing some strength and starting to turn around. If it doesn't, and I'm afraid it's complete lights out. I do think stocks will bounce. The question is, will that bounce actually take us out of this downtrend? Actually, is that going to be enough to turn the markets around? And I'm not too sure if it is. I would actually give this scenario right here probably about a 20 to 30% probability that we do actually come up and eventually make another high later on this year. What I think we might actually do is actually retest these highs, but not actually make a new high. If we do follow this path, I would expect something maybe a little bit more like this, and then actually rolling over and going into our bear market on schedule, market topping out towards the end of 2025. But I just think that's too obvious. And I think if we did actually come up, we would probably see the market peaking out maybe towards the end of the summer. And then from there, we actually start to see the move lower. So I'm not at all bullish, and please do not interpret this path as being a bullish path. It's not. I really do not see this sort of working out, but I do see potentially us having another go and making a secondary peak later on this year before eventually struggling and probably coming down to lower prices. And with that said, my actual preferred path at the moment is going to be this one here. So it's actually going to be a drop down maybe to 75,000, or maybe as low as coming down here to around about 65. I know that's a very broad range, but literally I'm just not confident that this market is going to get heavily bid here and maybe needs to come lower to attract buyers. But this in itself here, the move down to the 100-week moving average, obviously we would lose our 50-week moving average. We would lose this low here. And for me, that would essentially be a death sentence to the bull run if we actually lost this low. That would put us into a weekly downtrend. And we might get a big recovery bounce. I think look, stocks are probably due a big bounce at some point. And I think when the stock market bounces, we can see a really, really strong recovery in Bitcoin, and crypto probably goes with it. And I mean, that bounce right there from here up to here would be a 50% bounce. So a 50% bounce in Bitcoin, maybe that's going to be a 100% bounce for some alts. And this could happen, if deals get done around tariffs, if everything starts to cool on that front, potentially we see something like this happen. But that's not going to break something and therefore give the Federal Reserve a mandate to then go back to quantitative easing or really start to drop interest rates aggressively. So actually, I think we would need to see more pain, more time, and I do eventually think we do come down to lower levels. So, like I say, this is still my preferred path. Like I say, I'd give probably the first one I shared, which was something like this, actually coming back up and getting all the way back up and retesting highs, probably around about sort of 30%. I'd maybe give 10% that we actually make a new high. So retest 30%, a new high 10%. That leaves 60% going to this sort of scenario, which would actually be some sort of bounce into a lower high and then eventual breakdown probably happening towards the end of the year when obviously people are expecting much higher prices going into end of the year. People are going to get excited here, thinking that the bull market's still on. This is just going to trap more people on the long side before an eventual move lower. And potentially we do only get one of these bounces, and actually this doesn't even come back up, and we come down lower sooner. I don't know the exact path. Obviously I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know exactly how this market is going to go throughout the rest of this year, but I'm leaning, like I say, I give it now over a 60% probability that these highs are in. They will not get retested again, and we will be going to much lower prices, below 60K, likely below 50K, possibly by the end of this year, if not definitely going into next year. And I think this market, the earliest, if we actually lost this low and these levels, I would actually up the probability of something like this happening probably up to 80 or 90%. And I think, like I say, this would take time to play out. Potentially, we go into a long bear market and you are looking at prices far lower, all the way into, potentially into early 2027. That's what I'm thinking. So, but certainly mid 2026, I'll be expecting potentially some sort of cycle low to be formed. And obviously, if we look very briefly at the stock market, then you just have to take a look at this to see that we're in big trouble. And obviously, the stock market has been closed now since Friday. Seeing this and seeing crypto hold up, for me, it was just a matter of time until crypto played catch up and we actually saw Bitcoin get the breakdown as well. Obviously, Bitcoin, little bit of a bounce here, but I just feel I can't help but feel we go a little bit lower here, at least, like I say, at least down to around about 75,000 and potentially lower. So I mean we could bounce here, we could come down to 70. I really don't know how ugly this will get, but certainly if it's another red day tomorrow in stocks, then potentially we see crypto really nuke. And look, we're already starting to see some signs of that. Obviously, we had the VIX spiking up 50% on Friday. That's a massive jump in the VIX. I'm looking at this saying this is really a complete breakout in the VIX. I mean, when's the last time we got a weekly close on the VIX at these levels? It was all the way here, which was early 2020, which was basically the pandemic. So yeah, I mean, this is not good. These are worrying signs. These are really worrying signs. And like I say, the S&P, interestingly, in terms of the Tom DeMark indicator, so obviously these numbers above the candles, we're currently on a weekly 7. So potentially we've got 2 more weeks of downside. Usually these markets like to top or bottom on weekly 9s. So they usually can top on these green 9s. Obviously, these last 3 really worked out quite well in terms of getting the market to take a bit of a pause. And potentially we get a bit of a pause in the downtrend in a couple of weeks' time on stocks. So whilst I think we could bounce sooner than that, this is just going by this Tom DeMark indicator, which is usually fairly reliable on traditional markets. Interestingly, however, Bitcoin is actually currently on a weekly 8. So from tomorrow, it will start printing a 9. So it could be that Bitcoin actually bottoms out next week. So that would be here, and potentially we get this flush next week into, like I say, the like low 70s into the 60s, and then we get some sort of bounce from there. And like I say, the bounce could be an aggressive one. So, I'm not wanting to get overly bearish at these levels, but obviously I am still in short positions. I have, like, full disclosure, I have sold out a lot of my crypto, like back here, that obviously I announced on the YouTube channel. And obviously, like I say, now I've got the Discord set up. We're going to be opening that up to the public very soon. And all of my trades, all of my ideas, all of my thoughts on the market will be shared first in that Discord. So, yeah, let's share just a couple more things to kind of back up what I'm talking about. That's a little bit bright. Uh, so apologies about the lighting here. But look, obviously in the last video I did, I said we're in complacency, probably somewhere between complacency and anxiety. I think we're getting closer to anxiety right now. People getting margin call. Why is this dip taking longer than expected? Yeah, I think people are starting to get a bit confused, a bit, what's going on? We shouldn't be doing this. We should be going higher. Why is the stock market dumping? I think people are starting to get anxious looking at the stock market. So I think we are starting to move on from complacency, even though I think there's still a lot of complacent traders and investors within crypto that just don't want to hear anything other than it has to be up only for the rest of this year. And obviously that will then flow into denial, panic, capitulation. I don't think we've seen these stages yet, which obviously tells you we still have a long way to go. And look, I got asked the other day, where do I think we are in this chart? I think for Bitcoin, we are between complacency and anxiety. I think a lot of crypto investors look at Bitcoin and that gives them hope because Bitcoin hasn't broken down. Bitcoin clearly is probably a little bit early to say we're in a bear market whilst we're still above sort of certain key levels. However, if you look at the altcoins are definitely in denial, panic, possibly even about to go into capitulation. I don't think we're in anger, depression yet, but yeah, there's a lot of denial in altcoins and panic in altcoins, and I think that really the denial stems from people looking at Bitcoin and expecting Bitcoin to go up and then to drag their altcoins with it. And it's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. Yeah, there might be a big bounce coming soon. That will be an opportunity for you to get out of any bags that you're stuck in before things go much lower, in my honest opinion. So again, I'm trying to come up with the most honest analysis that I can. If we look at this one here, this is the daily exchange volume. We've been tracking this and we've been talking about the fact that daily exchange volume is just completely on the floor here. There seems to be no interest. Nobody is interested in crypto right now. So if it wants to load up, I can show you it. If it doesn't, then I can't. Right, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Painfully slow. Okay. So you can see here, we've just been in a constant downtrend, really from November, well, from December. And interest is this just is a great graphic to kind of show the interest in crypto. This is completely it. This is completely it. There was little interest last year. It really hyped up when Trump won the election in November. We started going absolutely nuts. That was the full-blown euphoria meme season. I know it didn't feel like it if you were in certain tokens, but certainly for many people that were holding Bitcoin, that were holding Solana, that were holding certain meme coins, that was the euphoria stage. That was the hype. That was the crypto president being elected. That was the president launching his own meme coin. That was obviously a little bit later on in January when he did that, coming into office, inauguration, Bitcoin strategic reserve signed. And since then, people have just been using that news as exit liquidity. And it doesn't get bigger than that. We're not going to get a bigger advertisement for crypto than we've just had with President Trump getting elected and everything that he's done. If that can't send us higher, I'm afraid nothing this year, in my opinion, is actually going to send us to higher prices. Uh, and then a bit of analysis here just from X. If we take a quick look, I would actually recommend that you follow this guy. It's Tony the Bull BTC, I think it is. But he's been sharing some really good analysis. Obviously, we talked about this in the last video here. This is the peak point of maximum financial risk, and we've just gone past that. So if we look at when we've hit that in the past, you can see we've gone into a decline. We did it here. Obviously, we did it here, albeit we were delayed by several months till we actually topped out. We did it here. This was our first peak in the last bull market, and we've done it here again. And you would expect prices to decline, maybe not in a straight line, but overall to decline into this trough here, which will be our point of maximum financial opportunity. And, if you keep it really simple and you just sell in the red zones and you buy in the green zones, you're going to do pretty well. If you sell these peaks and buy these troughs with, you know, I'd say with size, just don't get caught up in the noise. You want to be out here and you want to buy here. So, you buy, you sell, you buy, you sell. You're going to make some fantastic gains if you keep it really simple and follow a strategy like this. And the same guy's at it again. He shared a chart this evening, and this one here is Bitcoin breaking out of its bull market trend line. It's ascending trend line. So when it wants to load up, so we can see here, Bitcoin uptrend line has been breached. So we are closing below that. If we don't get some sort of miraculous recovery above, it looks around sort of 80, 82, 83K there, that this trend line is coming in on, then I'm sorry, but that's another sign that we're probably going to come down to much lower prices. And if we just blindly sort of look at where's our support here, then we can kind of say, look, probably high 60s. We've got these highs here, and then we've kind of got it around the mid 50s as well, mid to low 50s. So yeah, potentially we do trend to lower prices now if this break does confirm. So look, we'll just finish off taking a really quick look at a couple of altcoins. As I know altcoins are getting absolutely destroyed right now. So if TradingView wants to start working, then I'll actually show you a couple of them. We're going to stick to the majors just because we're not going to have time to go through everything. But look, I mean, you've seen double-digit losses now. Ethereum under 1600, so printing new lows for the cycle. So you can see here, just complete capitulation, complete bloodbath on Ethereum. And look, I've had to walk away really from the bullish path on Ethereum and on Solana, just really due to the events of the last few weeks. Obviously, we lost this ascending trend line on the weekly now. Obviously, this was going all the way back to 2020, and sort of like that's the cycle before the last cycle. Obviously, these are our bear market lows. And then that took us to around about sort of like the 1800 level, which has now been lost. So where do we go from here? Right now we're at this 1500 level. I'm thinking like this might hold. But I mean, if we lose this, I know people are talking about 1300, which would be around here. And there probably will be bounces along the way. Look, we might even, like I said, if Bitcoin bounces 50%, and potentially we could see Ethereum coming back up above 2000. But that for me would be a absolute no-brain short or sell from that region, and we're likely to see lower prices. And look, I can see this coming down sub 1000 by the time that all is said and done. Obviously, this is not to scale, but I just want to tell you, I'm expecting Ethereum to grind lower. I don't see how Ethereum all of a sudden starts to take off into some sort of bull run with stocks in a bear market with Bitcoin. Obviously, if Bitcoin does continue to break down, which I think it will. So yeah, there will be bounces, but don't get trapped, don't get caught in here, and get FOMO and jump into this market thinking we're just going to send back to new highs this year. I think a lot of people will fall into that trap, unfortunately. And I know that all the crypto influencers, all the moon boys out there are talking about, highs later on this year. And what that means is, unfortunately, every single pump we get, every rally we get, people will be FOMOing in, expecting higher prices because everybody's telling them that's it. Let's go, last chance, off to the moon. We're so back. And unfortunately, you know how that story goes. These are just not buy and hold markets. These are not markets that you want to be investing in for the next year and holding your capital in for the next year, because I really, really do think we are going to see lower prices before we get a proper turnaround, which probably coincides with the stock market. And I do think, like I say, the stock market probably turns around in 2026. It probably takes a year for us to play out this downside to explore lower prices. So even though I've talked about buying stocks for a rally due to capitulation we saw last week, I still do think probably over the rest of the year we do go lower. But of course, I don't know. Things could change. The same with Solana. I think Solana might get a bounce from this 200-week moving average. Maybe we get a decent rally up to around 150. But from there, there's not a lot of support here. This run up was really quick. And I unfortunately see Solana going a fair bit lower, probably coming down to, like I say, the 70s, maybe as low as around $40 over the course of the next year. Again, it's not a pretty picture. So, what else did I want to say? So, yeah, just going back to Bitcoin then, like I say, Bitcoin under pressure now, trying to hold on to 79,000. It'll be interesting to see if we can hold this low. Potentially, we could try and get a higher low in here, which may give us the impotence to bounce quite hard over the next week. Like I say, in terms of the hopium is really the fact we are on a Tom DeNine 8 number. So next week will be the Tom DeMark 9 on the numerical sequential indicator, which could allow us to find a bit of relief over the next month if we actually get a sort of correction. Maybe we get a counter trend rally off the back of that, and we do have key support here. So, I don't want to get too bearish on you whilst we are still above key support, but I'm just saying the closer we get, the more we see stocks show weakness and sort of drift lower, the more people are going to want to de-risk. And we are seeing really, I'd say, a lot more risk off positioning. But of course, when everybody goes risk off and everybody starts to position short and people sell and capitulate, we can get those explosive rallies. So we might well get an explosive rally over the next week or two. And of course, yeah, I'm almost expecting us to get one fairly soon. But I just think over the course of the year, we probably do go lower. And as I said, Discord has now been set up. So if I just very quickly share what we're actually working on, I can very briefly share some of this with you. So of course, where are we? Obviously, this is the bragging rights. So some of my trades are in here. This was yesterday. A couple of shorts I opened up. Obviously, short S, short Zeus. These are in much higher profits now. This was last week. A couple of shorts on the Nasdaq and also the S&P. So short the indices, and these are some shorts that I've had on really for the last month and that I've been building, and you can see some massive gains there. So obviously all of these trades will be shared on this Discord channel that I'm in the process of building. There's going to be a fantastic offer for everybody that joins the Discord. Within the first month, we're going to be allowing the first 20, 30 members to join at a big discount, because obviously I want to grow the community. So there'll be more details on this coming out very soon. But you can see if we come here to market updates, this is where I share all of my market updates. So I talk about exactly what I'm seeing in terms of the markets, both stock markets and the crypto markets. Obviously, I talk about, sort of like the tariffs. Today it's tariffs. When that stops working, it will be slowing growth, slowing jobs, recession. So obviously, you can see last week. This is back on the 4th. I was getting nervous. So this is Friday. But even before that, I was saying it's likely stocks go lower tomorrow. This is on the 3rd. So you can see possibly into Monday. So that's exactly what played out. Stocks did go lower. This was on Thursday. Friday, they went a lot lower. That's when things really nuked. And then, I talk about sort of buying some stocks on the Friday afternoon on the capitulation. This is earlier on today. I'm talking about Bitcoin could roll over today into the weekly close, paying close attention. And you can see this is when we were at 82,500. I started to say that Bitcoin's starting to roll over. I think when I made this, Bitcoin was still around sort of 83,000. And like I say, now Bitcoin is at 79,000. So calling the market well here. And obviously, I'm happy to share this right now because we still haven't made this open yet to the public. But obviously, plenty of channels in here. You're going to be able to ask me questions. You're going to be able to make chart requests. There's going to be specific content. There's going to be institutional content, which I actually pay to receive, which you're going to get as being part of this Discord. So if that's something you're interested in, obviously more details will be following on future videos. For now, let's just brace ourselves for what's going on. Obviously, the market is still selling off. Bitcoin 79.2 as we speak. And like I say, we've got about 2 hours and 25 minutes now to go until we get the weekly close. So obviously, let's see how the weekly close goes. But I'll be careful here. Like I say, I think Bitcoin over the short term could come down to lower prices, could absolutely come into the mid to low 70s, potentially maybe as low as 63, 64 on the downside. So just stay safe out there. I wouldn't be touching anything on the long side with leverage right now. I would be patient. I would wait to see how this plays out, wait to see how the stock market plays out, wait to see what the VIX is doing tomorrow. There's a lot of moving parts to obviously piece together. That's why I'm wanting to come up with a Discord where I can just really share honest information and try and help as many people as I can to make money from these markets. Because like I say, it's been a good year for me. The last 2 years were great on the long side, getting into cryptos, getting into them early and riding them to the top of the market. And like I say, since early February, I've been out of this market. I've sold everything. I've started to play the short side, and that is working out as well. So I realize a lot of people are not understanding what's going on. A lot of people are flat-footed. A lot of people are just resorting to, well, you never know what's going to happen. So just buy for the long term, just hold. Don't try and time the market. But what I'm telling you is you can prepare, you can de-risk, you can know what to expect. If you understand the macro, you understand the trends, you understand the flows, you can position yourself to protect yourself from losses, to ensure you have exposure at the right times, to ensure that you de-risk at the right times, to obviously protect your portfolio, protect your capital. So then you've got the capital to invest when things do turn around, because believe me, the market, Bitcoin is here to stay. I'm a long-term bull on crypto. I'm a big believer that this industry is here to stay, and there will be many more years ahead of us that we can make massive gains to the upside by trading these markets. But that's going to be no good if you've lost half of your capital or more of your capital because you've been stuck holding things into 50, 70, 80, 90% drawdowns. You want to protect yourself from that. And like I say, I'd like to think I've been able to protect my own capital, and for that reason, I'm in a position where I can definitely help you protect yours. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Obviously, hit the like if you've enjoyed this one. Apologies, like I say, I've not been in my usual routine, but I had to jump on and put out another video just to update everybody. And yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, part of me is, even though I'm right now, part of me wishes that we were in more bullish conditions. But I just have to be honest. This is not what I'm seeing right now. And as a bear, as somebody that's been leaning more bearish for the last couple of months, literally everything is playing out to the textbook in terms of what I've been expecting with the assumption with the expectation that we are transitioning into a bear market. And like I say, by the time people tell you, these bullish people turn around and say it's a bear market, the price will already be under 50,000, because the whole way down, people will be saying, "Oh, look, we're still above these highs. Oh, we still haven't taken out last summer's low." And yeah, I mean that's a long way to go. I mean for this market to come down under 50K, you're still looking at another 37%. So that's a big old drop. And obviously altcoins will probably do a lot lower, a lot more than that to the downside if Bitcoin does go there. So yeah, just stay safe, protect capital. Like I say, subscribe if not done so already. I'm going to be back with another video. Hopefully, try and get a couple more videos done this week. Stay tuned. Discord coming soon. I'll let you know more details about that on the next one. And have an amazing day. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you all again very soon.